Hello and welcome to episode 13 of Get in the Bin via the Everything is Black and White podcast with me, Andrew Musgrove.
And me, Sam Mulliner. Hello.
And for those not watching on YouTube, Sam has had a haircut, although I do hope that he's kept the receipt because they have butchered your hair, mate.
I could not care less.
Fair enough.
It's a maintenance thing. I don't
So,
have to impress anyone with my haircut these days. I'm married. I've got 2 children. I don't need to impress anyone. My life's as good as over anyway. It just doesn't matter.
but then why not just put like a mixing bowl over your head and just do it yourself? Because I suspect in this day and age, that's cost you 20 quid.
It absolutely did not cost me £20.
It
It cost me 12. So value for money there. It's just one of them. Why has this been turned on to me anyway? I can put some wax in this and make it look acceptable because tomorrow, as we record this, I am going to a film premiere.
Oh, hello. And which film premiere is this?
So my good friend and stand-up comedian from the Northeast, Mr. Anth Young. See how friends invite things to each other. Remember how you couldn't sort me out a ticket to an awards do? But luckily, I have other friends in the biz, and Anth Young has been on tour over the past year, stand-up comedian with Carl Hutchinson, who's aligned with Chris Ramsey, and camera crews have been following Carl and Anth around on tour for the past 12 months or so, and they've got a documentary film coming out, premiered at the Tyneside Cinema. I don't know why I'm plugging it because it would have already happened by the time this came out. It's the day of the Brighton game, so fun fact: we're recording this the day before the Brighton game.
So you're going to the Brighton game and then you go into this premiere?
Yes.
So just a few things there that you said. My friends invite me to things. I mean, complimentary tickets, I imagine, to this premiere. You're already paying for your hotel because you're going to the Brighton game. So it comes at no extra cost to
I'm not staying at a hotel. I'm taking Johnny with me, so I'm staying at his.
There you go. So there's a lot of elements in this to why the situation with the awards due in London next month and this lovely premiere of a lovely documentary, which will be absolutely brilliant, are not comparable. But I hope you have a
Q&A
wonderful
afterwards
time.
as well with Chris Ramsey and Carl Hutchinson and Anth. Bless him. Very, very funny guy. He's always at the stand and touring around the country. So if you do ever get a chance to check out Anth and Carl Hutchinson there, it's a fantastic night of comedy.
What are you doing, sorry, Sunday? You're going out on the high, did you say there?
On Sunday, I'm driving home.
Oh, I thought you said that the day after with Chris Ramsey and co.
No, Q&A after the film's being shown. It's all rolled in. But yeah, you make a good point that I'm at the Brighton game before, which is why I'm not invited to the pre-drinks because I'll still be wearing a Newcastle shirt, and it is smart casual. So I got uninvited to that last night.
Any excuse to invite you to posh things, I suspect people will snap the hand off to do so. Right, shall we get into episode 13?
Yes, you promised listeners and viewers last week to a score, and you're already shaking your head, so it's apparently obvious that you've not got the scores.
I haven't, right? So because I went to do it, and then I realized I'm going to have to look back. I'm going to have to listen back to every episode. I'll tell you what, let's do it right now. Let's do it live and see if we can get through it all, right? So we had episode 1 was the loyalty of sporting directors against FA Cup changes. Can you remember who won that one?
You did.
Right. Then we had the pointless 6-second rule against linesman's delay raising the flag, which is really ironic because I was fuming Bayern Munich versus Real Madrid when the linesman did exactly what I urged linesmen to do and raise the flag.
Good job. I won.
Go on.
I won that one though, didn't I?
You won that one. Yeah, but I'm just laughing at me being contradictory.
Yeah, no, it's the basis for a lot of your arguments, judging from the comments.
Someone in the comments last week did say, "Can Reach PLC pay me to go on a debating course because you're going to win every week?" Look, I will work out the scores for next week. I'm not going to go through this because the interface to do so is pretty shoddy. So I'll work it out for next week. And
just
we'll have
that your priorities lie elsewhere within the podcast space. I mean, if it was a podcast with Gibbo or Lee Ryder, you'd have known the scores.
Do you know what, though, Sam? It's not about the scores. It's about spending half an hour with you chewing the fat about football's most annoying parts of the game. That's what it's about. And our wonderful listeners and viewers.
Yeah, I've had some lovely reviews of late as well. Thank you very much for whoever sent.
Yeah, I've been looking at these reviews, and I'd say like 6 of the last 10 have all been about how good you are. And I'm a little bit suspicious, I have to say.
I don't know. Well, how many podcast listeners do you get on each show? Because you've had 6 people that say they like me. So what is that? Like 10,000 that potentially don't.
Maybe. I don't want to hurt your ego though, so we'll let you have it. But if you are the person who is writing these lovely reviews about Sam, thank you very much, because it all helps. And he's very happy. You make his day. I just get texts from him saying, "Look at this lovely review." It really does cheer him up. So thank you.
Waiting for some nice ones about you.
I know. Never happened. Not even from my mum.
But you don't
anyway,
because you are the hero of the year.
Here we go. Do you know what? I'm going to have to win that award just to shut you up. Although, actually, I think if I won it, that might make it even worse, to be fair.
No, I'll give you the fanfare that you thoroughly deserve should you win.
Thank you. Right. Let's get on to this. I went first last time, didn't I? I think. Age Before Beauty.
Yes.
Yeah, I did. So you go first this time and introduce your item.
So it's not hard-hitting this week like last week.
No tears.
No. I didn't shed it. Did I? I didn't cry.
No, you very nearly had me going, to be fair.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Mate, you pulled on the heartstrings. It was if I hadn't had if I hadn't had a pick that I was so passionate about, the Joe Harvey, the lack of respect for Joe Harvey, I would have given that to you like that. As soon as you told the story about your granddad and that ticket, you had me going.
Well,
I had something in my eye.
Yeah, I miss him dearly, but yeah, we're back to a bit of fun this week. And my one this week, and this stemmed from watching the Champions League in midweek, actually. Now we have our finalists, chuffed for Dortmund, by the way. So my issue this week is musical performances / pop concerts before a final kickoff.
Oh my God, that is so funny, because last night I was out for my evening walk and I was thinking about what item I would bring to the table. And that was one of them that I considered. I haven't brought it to the table this week, thankfully, but I did think about it.
We're on to a winner then, aren't we?
I don't know what mine is yet, but you continue. Why are you bringing this to the table?
It's just so annoying and Americanized and just a final, because it just comes back. Like I said, the inspiration behind the thought was the Champions League final, and watching recent finals of the past few years, and it just so unnecessary to get some tedious pop star whose song they perform will be forgotten about by the next year, and then it just doesn't need it. For example, this year, Dortmund in the final against Real Madrid, the biggest team in the world, against Dortmund fans who are so good. I want to hear that atmosphere building organically, and like we've said before, you don't need to force an atmosphere. But we're going to get some awful pop star being auto-tuned to hell ring around Wembley Stadium for 10 minutes when the players are stood in the tunnel ready to play the biggest game of their lives, and you've got to wait for a Beyonce tribute act to leave the pitch before the final can commence, and all football fans in that stadium are just singing their own songs anyway. They're not paying a blind bit of attention. It's just a waste of time for UEFA to try and compete with the NFL, which, to be fair, the NFL needs it because it's boring as F. I so nearly said the F word there as well, but I remember this is family friendly and I don't want to have you moan about editing. So NFL needs it because it's boring as sin. It doesn't Ours, it doesn't. It's so unnecessary, and I got sent a viral video. You know, these like Facebook meme kind of videos that get banded around from my good broadcasting friend Colin Hawes. He sent me this one comparing American crowds and European crowds and the different songs they sing. And it's just chalk and cheese, and it just shows why the American events of NFL and all that kind of need like the halftime show and this, that, and the other, and why like our crowds and our events it's just so unnecessary. I get tradition, like Abide With Me for the FA Cup final, no issue with that whatsoever. That's a long-standing tradition. Let's not confuse the two. But there was none in the Carabao Cup final, was there? And the atmosphere was allowed to build organically, and it's a struggle at times at Wembley. I get that, but you know, the with flags and everything being waved, and you know, it was nice to see rather than Britney Spears sing a song from the 90s.
I think at the cup final, the League Cup final, they played one song each that relating to the club. I'm sure I remember Local Hero being played. They had announcers from both clubs.
Yeah, but it wasn't
a few minutes
live. That was my point.
There wasn't a performance by anyone. My question to you though, Sam, I mean, last week you mentioned seeing Oasis and what have you. I mean, if it was Oasis doing the pre-game show, I know they're not together at the moment, but we can live in hope. If it was Oasis bringing you the Champions League kickoff, as opposed to, I don't know, Dua Lipa or Rihanna, would you look upon it more favorably?
What that is? What's a Dua Lipa?
Dua Lipa. She's a very successful solo artist.
Oh, okay. Good for her. Good.
I mean, I'm surprised you've never heard of Dua Lipa. Have you seen the Barbie movie? She plays a mermaid in that. No. Okay.
Why would
you know who Rihanna is, though?
Umbrella.
That's the one, the world's most annoying song. But my point being, if it was a band or an artist you liked bringing you some pre-kickoff entertainment, would you be more favourable?
No, because I think it should be kept separate. If I was look, I've been to as many gigs as I've been to football matches down the years. I love going to see live music. It has always been one of my favourite things to do, and I've seen live music in stadiums and like small gigs as well. Whatever. Now I don't want to see the two confused. I don't want to. Were it someone like Oasis, I mean, Oasis aren't one of my favourite bands, but fun fact, first album I ever bought was What's the Story, Morning Glory, which is pretty cool, I think, as a 6-year-old buying that, because normally, like, people of my age, it would have been like Mr. Blobby or Steps or someone like that, but I'd wear that as a badge of honour. But no, I don't want to see the two confused. It's just, and it's never anyone cool anyway, or it might be for 8 to 10-year-olds, but just no, I don't want no, not for me.
And I guess you can throw in light shows and laser and all that. Are you including that in the kind of in the bin this week? Was it solely just the singing element that you despise?
Yeah, just the live musical performances and everything that goes with it, and it's just a delay to kick off, and it's just so annoying. And what was it? I remember one, and I don't know who it was, because if I didn't know who, what was it called? Dua
Lipa.
Dua or Duo?
Dua. D-U-A. Dua Lipa.
Yeah, I'm down with the kids. It's one of them where it was someone like that, but it wasn't that. It was a female solo artist anyway that complained that she gave her all with that performance and no one cared. You're right, no one cares. People are there to watch football. People are there to watch their team in the biggest game in club football, not to listen to you harp about Love in Summertime or stuff like that. God, I sound so old. I'm 34.
You do, but I get where you're coming from, and I guess you could also stretch your point to incorporate Americanisms in general, affecting the Premier League or European football. You know, this idea of playing a 39th game in America, for example, does my nut in. But anything, because there seems to be a want, I think with so many American owners or influence in the Premier League, there seems to be a want to try and get a few of the elements of the NFL over to the Premier League. So whether that be half-time entertainment or a spending cap which just favors the rich teams, things like that, I suppose you could also stretch your point to.
Can you name me one good American owner in English football in the top divisions? And bear in mind, Ryan Reynolds is Canadian.
Well, I'm going to be intrigued to see how the Bournemouth owner does over the next few years.
But
he's stuck by the manager when it wasn't going very well, and he's reaping awards now.
Neil.
No, go on, sorry.
It was incredibly harsh to get rid of Gary O'Neill.
No, the current Bournemouth manager,
Iraola, who's been nominated manager of the season when Eddie Howe hasn't.
Yeah, I actually think he deserves to be nominated for manager of the season. But if you remember at the start of the 23-24 season, if I'm not mistaken, it wasn't going well for Iraola. Let me just double check that before I ramble on and I'm wrong. I mean, yeah, so they picked up one win in their first 11 games.
Mm-hmm.
But he stuck by him. So I think he's not started too badly as the American owner there.
It's
so
early,
how he gets on.
Your Glazers, the Liverpool owners before, I mean, they were going to go off to the Super League. They're a bit hit and miss. The current ones, the previous ones, Hicks and Gillette, were awful. There's Bowley. All right, he's put his money where his mouth is, but it's just in such a clueless fashion. Although they could absolutely S-house their way to Europe this season. It's not done and dusted yet. But yeah, it's I don't want to sound all UK independence, but it's it's a proper British and European kind of atmosphere that's not needed to be toyed with American things.
I get you. Right. Shall I introduce my point, which I think I've got to...
What's the losing point this week?
Get out of here, man. I think I stand a really good chance this week, actually. It's play acting. Those my nut in. So when players go down with a little brush of the face or dive or a little challenge and they go down like they've been shot, does my nut in. And I think that should get in the bin. So let me just give you a few examples. We had Ben White versus Brighton last month when he brushed into one of their players and he went down clutching his throat. And as Alan Shearer described on his podcast, it is an effing joke. And it's things like that where players go down and over-egg the contact just to get an opponent sent off. It's pathetic. It really is pathetic. And I think the referee should be firmer. If someone kind of, just grabs the face, but it's very soft, let's not send the guy off, especially if the person who's been touched in the face goes down, like he has been shot. No, turn around and say, right, you're getting booked. You're getting a telling off. Away you go. And actually, I was looking on YouTube for examples, and there was a Fuller at Stoke versus Pansel for Fulham, and they went head to head, and there was a little brush of heads, and Pansel goes down, and it is it's sickening, absolutely sickening. Goes down, hands over the and the referee comes over. He tells him to get up, and he just says, "No more, done." Doesn't send Fuller off because he realizes the Fulham guy's just gone down. He's just play acting. It really annoys me. It really, really annoys me. And the other thing, Sam, as well, I think, and I'm not condoning violence because I would rather there be no violence on the pitch. I'd rather there be no pushing and shoving. But the one thing I can't stand, what did you say there?
Let's all just get on. Come on.
Yeah, let's all just get on. Funny, set a good example. And that's first and foremost. But I also think if you're going to get sent off for something, right, get sent off for having a proper hoo-ha. Don't get sent off for lightly brushing someone's face or pushing someone in the face. Get sent off.
You've
Good old smack in the face. But don't do it because we don't condone violence.
Gone old Joey Barton. What's got into you?
Well, I just think, when you see players getting sent off and they've literally done nothing, it's just pathetic. I mean, is it really worth it? Oh, you've pushed him in the face. You got him a little tap, and then you've been shown a red card.
You don't want them to absolutely leather him or go knee high or whatever like that.
Oh, no. And like I said, first and foremost, I'd rather not see it at all. I'm just saying, in a kind of a other scenario, if you're going to get sent off, then yeah, make sure it's worth it in a way. And I'm not talking about Keane versus Haaland because that was a part of coward's challenge.
And that's where it all stems from, criticising Erling Haaland, which we.
Yeah, it does. But when Keane got sent off against Newcastle, trying to take a swing at Shearer, that's fine because you know what, getting sent off for that, although he didn't make any contact, you're like, okay, because you knew, you knew what he was trying to do. He meant that he was going after Shearer, and Shearer stood his ground, brilliant. But I think that's a worthy sending off. You don't look daft there. I mean, he does look daft, but at least he's not been sent off for, a little tickle.
Yeah, and Alan Shearer played that beautifully. And absolutely
one of my favourite moments.
Yeah, and they still don't really get on now, do they? Which is quite. There's a charity boxing match for you, isn't it? That'd be fantastic because there's only one winner, and it ain't the Irish dude. So it's one of them. But I get it. But do you think maybe to kind of play devil's advocate, because of course I think every man and woman and their dog would hate the play acting side of things. But do you think that players have to maybe exaggerate their point to kind of get the attention of a poor referee these days?
They shouldn't have to, given that they got VAR. I know it doesn't work as well as it should do.
So it might become a necessity in order to get something from the ref.
But then again, it leads back to the officiating. The FA, the Premier League, and the referees should come together and really crack down on it. I think that's one of the bad things that one of the things that hasn't happened. This whole giving yellow cards for diving, it's not consistent enough because we see players diving and not getting penalised for it.
And then Wilson the other week at Burnley got booked for diving, even though he got up and carried on.
Yeah, so this is the point. I think the point of it being a necessity, I think referees should be allowed to be firmer and say, look, if you really over-egg it, then we're just not going to give you a foul. And we should be relying on VAR to get the decision correct. I just think something needs to happen where the players don't feel the need to be throwing themselves to the floor every 30 seconds to try and get a foul. I love it. What I love is when you see a player who's on the receiving end of a bad challenge and they just get straight up. They don't do 24 rolls to the side of the pitch. They just get straight up.
But not everyone can be David Batty.
It's not about being a tough, strong footballer. It's just about being, a decent human being, I guess, in many ways, and not play acting.
I think that point will come under, though, just weak officiating as well, and more done with VAR.
I mean, does it not annoy you when you see players running into the box and they've got an opportunity to shoot instead they go down? Again, for the research of this one, there was a Miguel Almiron one against Manchester United. I think it was against Chris Smalling, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And he's beaten him. He has beaten him. And then he goes down, and then Fred comes in and makes a challenge. So actually, with it being Fred that makes a challenge, it probably isn't Chris Smalling. But the point is, he beats the defender and then goes down. I'd say, but you were through. Sure, and did Sean Longstaff not do it a couple of weeks ago as well? That really annoys me. Stay on your feet.
Happened as well. If you think back to last season, and I bring this game up because it was a bit of a turning point after the cup final defeat at home to Wolves. Early doors at 0-0, Jimenez went down instead of scoring, and he in order really to try and get Nick Pope sent off. Instead of staying on his feet and putting the ball into an empty net. And we go on to win that game 2-1. It was a springboard onto a really strong finish to the season, wasn't it? It does wind me up. There's no denying that, especially the Longstaff one the other week, when you just the old John Anderson, just put it in the net.
Well, John Anderson, you'd never see him diving about the place. I mean, the other one that springs to mind is Andy Carroll running through for Liverpool.
Yeah, he bottled it.
Yeah, Leazer's end.
He didn't want to score past us.
And he went down. That was
He didn't want to score past us. So
okay, we'll let him have that one. The other one that I came across was Leicester versus Arsenal, and the Leicester defender has a throw in, and Sanchez won't get out of his way, so he throws it at Sanchez, hits him on the shoulder, and Sanchez goes down to hold his face again like he's been booted in the face, and it's just like, you're pathetic.
Yeah.
You're a grown man.
This is for over 20 years, though. I think back, I think it was the 2002 World Cup, and this is a real classic one. Rivaldo.
Oh, yes, the corner flag against Turkey, wasn't it?
Yeah, 2002.
And it rolls up, hits his shin, and like he's got, it just annoys us. It really, really annoys. Because I know I've said about getting sent off. If you're going to get sent off for something proper. I say that jovial because we don't want to see violence on the pitch at all, because it sets a bad example. But diving about the place and play acting also sets a bad example. I mean, you go and watch Sunday League football, the youth leagues, you'll see kids doing it. I just think it's not a good example to set. The players just need to be a little bit stronger.
Yeah. Look, it is a contact sport at the end of the day as well, isn't it? Although maybe not as much as it was in the 90s or whatever, but and even back further than that. I just think that your point is coming under the whole guise of officiating, and a lot of it is tantamount to poor officiating, weak officiating.
You're defending play acting as a necessary evil because the officiating is that bad.
I'm defending my point and fighting for my point. This is why you need to go on a debating course.
I'm just trying to understand.
You're never going to be a master for
where
all
you're coming from.
Waiting for an awful pun, but yeah, it's why I'm defending my point, and I think that the waters are muddied a bit with your argument that it should be wiped out the game. But how do you wipe that from the game without stronger officiating, without influence of VAR? Because again with VAR, the technology is sound. It is the people operating it and interpreting it that are the issue at the moment. It's Howard Webb and not doing his job properly. That's what it comes down to. The technology itself is bob on, in my opinion, but it's one of them. It's not where it doesn't have maybe enough influence in cases like that.
But finding a solution to the problem shouldn't muddy the waters. It's like looking at your point and saying, okay, the solution to pre-match entertainment is not to have it. So
easy.
You shouldn't muddy the water. Well, this is easily fixable. You let the referees be a lot firmer when it comes to play acting. You find the consistency when it comes to punishing diving, and you be firmer when it comes to handing out cautions or red cards for coming togethers. Like, for example, would it not be better just to have a little word if someone does lightly brush someone's face, or there's a head to head? I just don't think we should be seeing people get sent off for a little coming together. I mean, obviously, if there's a proper headbutt, you send them down the tunnel. If there's a proper push in the face, send them down the tunnel. But a little tickle here or there, or a little brush of the face. This is where VAR comes into it. They can be in the air and say, "Look, that's nothing. That's nothing. It's two players having a bit of a word, bit of a push and shove. It's not worthy of a red card. It's not worthy giving the other team an advantage. Have a strong word. Say next time, Buchan." I just think the referees should be allowed to be firm and saying, "You know what? No, we're not sending them off. We're gonna have a strong word and behave."
Yeah. So what you're saying is that officials need to be stronger in their officiating, and VAR needs more. You could have like semi-automated offside. You could have the VAR official in the referee's ear go, right, that player's took a dive, booking for simulation, and that's it. It doesn't have to be a long, drawn-out process. But I think probably the crux of the issue is you don't want to put Dua Lipa in the bin.
I mean, look, I've not been to a stadium where I've not been to a final, to be fair, other than the League Cup final, where they've had this.
We've not been to many over the years.
We haven't, and I'll be honest, I don't really. I don't set my calendar around like the Champions League final. I mean, if it's on, I'll watch it. But again, it's one of those where I'm not penciling in whatever date it is to watch Real Madrid.
Would your Carabao Cup final experience have been heightened by the presence of Dua Lipa?
I think if you had, say, someone like AC/DC, rocking the beginning of it.
Never going to happen.
I know, but you're asking me about Dua Lipa, and I'm saying, well, probably not about Dua Lipa, but if you want to really set the atmosphere and tour, and you get someone in like AC/DC
That's not what happens, though, is it?
It's not, but hey.
Exactly. It's your friend Lipa, and whoever else it is. I don't even know. The ones. I don't know the ones.
Nicki Minaj.
Yeah. Who's he?
George Ezra.
I don't mind him, but
there you go. Let's see. There we go. We found one. George Ezra, open up the Champions League final, and you'll be sweet, right?
I'll be riding shotgun.
Way! I was trying to think about trying to. It's a shame the final's not in Budapest. But anyway.
Yeah, but it's not that. That's just not what happens, though, is it? It's some god awful American artist or that kind of someone from that kind of ilk that's just so tedious that just because UEFA want to be the NFL when they don't need to be.
Yeah, I get you. But you haven't persuaded me. I don't think I'm going to concede.
What do you mean I haven't persuaded you? You were going to bring this issue up.
I was, but is it a bigger issue than play acting within the game? I don't think it is.
No, but I don't know.
Like if what so it happens at the Champions League final, doesn't happen at the FA Cup, it doesn't happen at the League Cup, it happens at the start of the World Cup. You probably have someone opening up. Euros, maybe you'll have someone as well. It doesn't happen that often to really be an issue. Does it?
Can't believe you're sticking up for Dua Lipa.
It's not about Dua Lipa. It's about fighting for my point here and winning this week. I just don't think I get it. If it was happening, like if it was every single week in the Premier League and they had a contract where they had to have an artist every week, then you'd be a bit like,
okay. Could go, if we don't put it in the bin now,
we can't put something in that hasn't happened.
No, we're making a preemptive decision to save football.
Imagine that every other week, had to have a top 10 artist perform at the Premier League ground.
Absolutely no, thank you.
You're right. It probably will end up that way eventually.
It actually makes, because obviously it's starting with UEFA. Every Champions League or Europa League or wherever, we've got to have someone miming along or auto-tuned just to sing their latest chart-topping hit that will be forgotten about in 2 months' time.
I'll be honest, I couldn't tell you a single song in the top 10 charts.
No, neither could I.
No. In fact, just to round this off before we decide who wins this week, we are recording this before the Sunday charts because I think the charts are always on a Sunday, aren't they? So we are recording this on the Friday.
You know what? I don't think they are on a Sunday anymore.
No, they're not actually. I've just gone on the official charts website, and it's 5 hours and 32 minutes until the new top 40. But I'll tell you what, okay, let me just read you the top 10, right? Someone called Sabrina Carpenter is number 1 with Espresso. I haven't heard of that.
Her dad is a master of joinery.
All right, very good. Taylor Swift and Post Malone. Okay, I've heard of them. They're second.
I've heard of Taylor Swift.
Hosier, third. I have heard of Hosier.
Yeah.
Beautiful Things by Benson Boone. And that's not a bad tune, but it is getting us slightly annoying because it's absolutely everywhere.
How does it go?
These beautiful things that I found. There we go. Ruined it for everyone.
Wow.
Artemis, 5th. Don't know who you are. Shabuzi, 6th. Nope, never heard of you. Teddy Swims at number 7. Number 8, Taylor Swift is there. Dasher, number 9. And Taylor Swift with her 3rd entry this week, down to 10. Yeah, that could be an official chart show. There you go. Yeah, to be fair.
We need Led Zeppelin in the background whilst you were doing it. I should have done that.
Yeah, copyright, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
But the 2 points this week. Have I persuaded you that play acting should get in the bin?
Yeah, because you've gone more serious than me. I wanted to kind of go a bit up, more of an uplifting thing. And the fact, I was thinking about it, the fact that you didn't give it me last week was an absolute disgrace. I know we put, but you should have really let me have that one.
Well, you specifically said at the end, before we finished recording, that you didn't want to be given it on the basis of the emotional pull, even though I think it was probably very justified.
Yeah, that was just me trying to take the higher ground, but then
I was so passionate about my point last week. I couldn't have given it over, even though you were very passionate yourself on yours, and that's why we decided to have a draw this week. It's not going to be a draw, is it? I've won this week.
It's not, because everyone hates play acting, don't they? I'd feel a bit guilty were I not to let you have it, because it is absolutely just mind-numbingly annoying.
And where do you stand on red cards for next to nothing? Is it an embarrassment for a player who gets sent off? I mean, let me tell you a little story before we wrap up. I was down in Hull this week working on their podcast. Funny enough, on the day that they sacked their manager, which was a big surprise to everyone. So we hosted a live event in front of a live audience. Fair to say that sacking did not go down very well at all.
Did you
David Myler
later?
Did I need funny? David Myler.
Hull accent is the worst in the UK by an absolute mile.
That is Sam Milner's opinion. If we have any Hull-based Newcastle United supporters, your accent is lovely. David Myler was one of the guests from Sunderland midfielder, of course, former Hull midfielder. And yes, he was asked about Alan Pardew and that infamous headbutt. And one thing that stood out about what he said was, he said if he had gone down after the incident, he would never have been able to live it down, because he said it wasn't a headbutt. Everyone termed it a headbutt, but because Alan Pardew was so small in comparison to him, it was kind of just a brush of the cheek, which was quite amusing. But the point about him saying if I'd gone down, he was laughing, he was shaking his head. He just said, "No, I just couldn't have done." Like he couldn't even finish his sentence to make the point about not falling to the floor with his head in his hands, when most players would have done. And that just stuck with me. And I was like, that's why this point kind of came about. I thought, you know what, David, you might be an ex-Sunderland player, but fair enough. Fair play to you.
Yeah, I suppose there's an element of kind of shock to it as well, because you wouldn't, because obviously the blow wasn't anywhere near hard enough to knock you off your feet in literal terms, but to have that happen, there's got to be an element of shock of like, what the hell has just what has he just done? But like, to even think about going down. But yeah, it was just a bit of bants, wasn't it, at the end of the day?
Bit of bants. So there we have it. But I think Sam has conceded this week, so I am the winner. Play acting gets in the bin, eradicated from the game. And as Sam has mentioned during the show, yes, we have to see stronger officiating. I mean, it is maybe a more broader point that could be discussed. But for now, pre-match entertainment will continue in the Champions League and other competitions when teams get to the finals. So I hope you enjoy whoever brings you the pre-match entertainment next month at Wembley. Who do you think it is? Do we know? It's very funny if it is Dua Lipa.
Who was number 9 in the charts?
I think it was Taylor Swift, wasn't it?
T Swizzle. Yeah. We'll go.
She is on tour. She's on tour around about that time in the UK.
There you go. That's
so it might be Taylor Swift. But we will wait and see. Right. Thank you guys for tuning in. This has been episode 13 of Getting the Bin via the Everything is Black and White podcast. Hit subscribe, give the video a thumbs up if you're on our audio channel. Leave us a rating and review. Don't leave any more nice reviews about Sam, though his ego is big enough. And we'll see you next week.